Welcome to a very special edition of the Commissioner's Corner. I'm joined today by 6 outstanding WCHA women. As part of National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, the WCHA is doing something special. We're going to call it National Girls and Women's in Sports Week around our league this week and celebrate the women of the WCHA who are making a difference in advocating for girls and women moving forward in sport. So today I've got 6 of our assistant coaches, each of them with their own story, each of them with their own level of experience. And I'm really excited to have them join me and have a chance to talk with them. So let me introduce you to them first. Jackie Crum, an alum of the University of Wisconsin, who is in her 12th season on the bench with the Badgers. Sherry Dickerman, also an alum of her coaching at her alma mater. Sherry coaches at Minnesota State University, where she was an All-American goalie, and is in her 12th season with the Mavericks. Bethany Browsen at University of Minnesota. Bethany's in her 5th season, also an alum of the program that she coaches. Janelle Sergey, St. Cloud State University, played at Wisconsin and now has joined the Huskies and been on their staff for 7 seasons. Molly Engstrom, her counterpart assistant coach at St. Cloud, also a Wisconsin alum, so an interesting Badger to Husky connection. Molly's in year 2. We're calling her a veteran now. She's on her second year on the bench with the Huskies. And our newest member of the assistant coaching crew, Emma Terrace at Bemidji State. Emma is an alum of Bemidji and has been on the bench for about 5 months with the Beavers. So excited to hear her perspective as well. Thank you all so much for joining me. We got lots of questions, so we're just going to dive right in and get started. Jackie, I'm going to start with you as maybe our veteran coach. Why do you think it's important to have women on the bench in our game?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I think one, just the connection with the student athletes, with the females on the team, another female connection on the bench. But I would say that's the main reason. I mean, hopefully, you know, we're there with our hockey knowledge and our coaching ability, number one, but obviously the human connection is there with the female to female.
Janelle, let me flip it to you. Why do you think it's important, and what does it mean to you to be a woman on the bench?
I think it's important to just be that positive role model and just being able to relate to them on and off the ice in areas that men just can't relate to them. You know, there's definitely lots of conversations that happen that I would have never had with a male coach. And, you know, having a female coach throughout my college career as well, it was something that you have a comfort level with, and you're able to look up to them in more ways than just as a coach.
Bethany, how about for you? Was there a woman in your progress that helped lead you to wanting to be on the bench? And do you think it's important for your student athletes to have a female behind the bench as well?
Yeah, I think Jackie and Janelle both hit it on the head with the relatability and connection piece. The additional piece I was going to add is that modeling for young athletes. I think for me, like growing up in Minnesota, Winnie Brown is probably the one that stands out to me. She just did a lot of coaching at a younger age. She was really the only female actually that coached me growing up. And then when I got to Minnesota, I was coached by Natalie Darwitz and Nadine Muzzerall. So I think that modeling is huge for athletes coming up.
Sherry, I'm curious, as you've been on the bench for 12 years at Minnesota State, as you've seen, you know, your student athletes come through, to Bethany's point about being that role model for them or helping them sort of see maybe a future in something that doesn't look very female sometimes, right? Like how do you have conversations with your student athletes about, you know, what they can do in the sport of hockey if they want to? Is that something that you try to engage with them to try to help them, you know, maybe want to stay in the game?
Yeah, some of them. I mean, it's like the other 3 have already said, it's if you can see it, you can be it. I think that's huge right now. And I guess I've had some conversations and hopeful that moving forward, some of our student athletes will stay in the game. You know, like I see faces on here that I've, you know, played against and then coached against as they were players, and it's awesome to see them staying involved, and hopefully there'll be more of that moving forward, and we'll have more alums of our league coaching in some aspect, whether it's, you know, there's a lot of them coaching high school as well, and I think that's awesome because we're surrounded by great people, and it's good to have them being role models for the future. We need more good people around, so
yeah, That's perfect. We need more good people. And you're right. You made a great point. We have a lot of WCHA alums who are coaching in different capacities, not within our league. And so, certainly it gives the sense that as our women's student athletes are coming through their programs, they're being encouraged to stay around the game. And I would guess that seeing you all stay around the game is a huge part of them realizing that they can do it as well. Molly and Emma, you're the newest to the bench. So just wondering, what drew you into coaching? So we'll start with Molly. Why coaching, Molly?
Thanks, Jen. The first thing I want to say is thanks for having us. This is awesome. I know that I went to the alumni game, WCHA alumni game last year, and it was a little bit of a short turnout. Maybe that had to do with COVID, but I'm just really grateful to be on this call and see everybody's faces. And yeah, this is awesome. So thanks for that. So what drew me to coaching? I've always loved coaching. And I had an extensive career. My career ended like 3 years ago. So in all of that, I was coaching, and then I took a little bit of a hiatus for a year from the game. And then this opportunity to coach in the NCAA and the WCHA came up. So I jumped on it. I don't know. It was just, like I said, I took advantage of an opportunity, but have always loved coaching. I like sharing my experiences. I had so many great coaches growing up, and in college and through the national team and just all the different experiences. And I just think coaching and teaching and I had just had another interview recently and just talking about service. I think it's just really rewarding and really fulfilling career.
How about you, Emma?
Yeah, I would agree. I always loved coaching, and that was kind of my side job whenever I played. And I was actually playing in Europe the past 2 years and was going to play a third year. And then this opportunity came up. It was the perfect transition. I always say I worry about hockey. That's a good worry. But yeah, I love my job, and I just think it's the perfect transition because I knew I never wanted to get rid of hockey. I knew hanging up the skates would be one of the hardest things for me. So it was just an easy transition. And I was going to school to be a teacher. So kind of perfect.
Yeah, teacher and coach, right? I mean, I think in most ways, coaches are teachers. That's what you're doing every day that you're out there. So that is a perfect transition. So how about for our veterans? Jackie, what's kept you in coaching? Why are you still behind the bench at Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, I think number one, I love the game, love hockey. It would be really hard to, I think, be without it. So that's, I think, I would say number one. Two, I just love developing student athletes. So watching them grow, number one as people, and then as two as hockey players is really, really rewarding just from that standpoint. And I love my job. I love coming to the rink every day, coming to work, love the people I work with. It's fun. So I think when that goes away, I'll probably stop. But for 12 years, it's been pretty awesome. So I'm going to keep going.
Well, we hope you keep going. Sherry, piggyback off of that. What's kept you on the bench?
I would agree. It's the people I'm around. These faces I'm looking at now, I like seeing these guys on the road. And unfortunately for the last year, I have not. It was kind of nice to stay home for about a month. But after that, I was ready to see you guys again. So it's a people, same. I love coming to the rink. Coaches I worked with, the student athletes I worked with, and still hearing from, people from 10 years ago, hey, great win, or hey, this is going on in my life. And it's cool to be a part of that. And I enjoyed my experience as an athlete here, and hopeful that I can help the next generation have a great time as a student and an athlete here at Minnesota State as well. So that's why I'm still doing it. Still like putting on my skates every day and being around hockey. So once that ends, maybe I'll do something else, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Good. We hope it doesn't. Janelle, you mentioned earlier that there, female coaches that you've had as you were going through college and such. So, who would you credit maybe with being instrumental in your hockey development and maybe in kind of helping you, want to be in the position of coach and helping the next generation of female student athletes?
Well, our assistant when I was at Wisconsin was Tracy Cornell, and she was just that like refreshing voice every day that was positive, high energy, always jumped in drills. I find a lot of my mannerisms on the ice, I think sometimes come from her. Just how much you always kind of enjoyed, and she turned a bad day into a good day by making you laugh, or, you know, whatever it was. So I think she was definitely very influential in my transition into being a coach, for sure.
So Bethany, I saw you smile as Janelle mentioned, you know, making the players smile, or kind of changing the energy of the ice sometimes. Do you feel like that is a role that you take on sometimes in practice, or maybe explain how maybe you fit into your coaching carousel, and what role maybe you take on with your student athletes?
Yeah, I was actually smiling because I was thinking about when we were in Wisconsin last series and I had to jump in for a defenseman, which I was not a defenseman, but we were just short on numbers. And I was amazed at how out of shape I was compared to our athletes. Like, it's just embarrassing sometimes. So yeah, it just kind of brought me back to that. But I do think we're in, to that point, a really unique spot as assistant coaches, or maybe just not ultimately the person that makes the final decision on some of these things, because I think that we can provide a different level of energy and relationship and connection with our players and have a little more flexibility in that. It doesn't always look like jumping in drills, thank goodness for us, but it can look a lot of different ways. And so I think that, you know, everyone's already mentioned it, but just that relatability, that connection, bringing some energy and fun in a way that we know is so important, because all of us have been through it, and we realize how special it is when coaches are able to bring that element.
Yeah, I would imagine that your players, all of your players, get kind of excited when you guys jump into drill, or they have a chance to maybe show you up or see your skills, whichever way they look at it that particular day. So I have to
say something off of that, just because I think it's interesting. I remember clearly at Wisconsin, Mark Johnson, of course, stepping in and sniping Jesse Vetter. Right? Very clear memory. And we all kind of like jaw dropped, like, oh my gosh, he still has it. Right. So I feel like now with us women in the coaching role, like we have our moments where we can, whether it's defend or shoot or whatever it is, that reminds our players they did play, they still have it, and they respect us for that. And I love that part of it. And that's what part of what keeps me in the game, is because you can inspire them in the role that you're at. And do it in moments in practice, in moments in skill sessions, whenever it is, that makes them turn and be like, oh, that's right, she did actually play. She does actually know what she's talking about. So that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, the credibility that must come with that. I can't really imagine that once they see you do something that, you know, maybe you've told them over and over and over to do something, and then you just show them how to do it, that has to definitely change the dynamic, I would imagine. Challenges and opportunities for women in sports, or coaching, I guess. So Molly, let me start with you. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges being a woman in coaching?
Honestly, I hate to say this, but being taken seriously, you know, still. And I'm not being specific about any personal, you know, situation, but I think in general, it's still growing. You know, women are growing into higher level coaching roles. It's still a male dominated sport, you know, and I think it's awesome. We have so many assistants, you know, assistant female coaches in this league. But I know that there are many more females that are qualified to be head coaches, you know, so I think it's growing. You know, we're growing as a society in a lot of ways, but I still think we have a long way to go. So I think that's just kind of always in the back of your mind. And so it's no different than when you were on the ice, you know, if you were with the boys, or even if you were with the women, you had something to prove, you know, you're trying to make the team, you're trying to turn ahead, you know, and also just fulfill your own desires at the same time. It's no different kind of right now in the coaching world. And I guess in my reality.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I think the women in a male dominated sport thing is very real, and we can dock into that a little bit further, but I appreciate that, the being taken seriously. And I think as women, all of us, no matter what our position is, if you don't come to the table ready, you don't get second chances often, right? So it's a bit of a double standard there that unfortunately still exists. Emma, how about for you? So new to coaching, what do you think is an opportunity, or what do you think why is it exciting for you to have this opportunity to coach?
Yeah, kind of like everybody's been saying about the connection that just being a female brings, just the impact that you can have on every student athlete that comes through your program, because I know how influential my coaches were to me, especially Amber Fricklin, who I took over. But I just think we can make such an impact, and every day it's fun to go to work because, you know, you get to make somebody's day or help them improve in some aspect. And I think that's the biggest thing for me as an opportunity every day.
Bethany, let's flip back to challenges. What do you see from your perspective, 5 years in as a coach? What's a challenge of being a woman in coaching?
Yeah, I think, you know, part of me, because I work at Minnesota, go the Lavoie Center and Tucker Center and all the work they do over there. And I think Molly was spot on. I think there is still a difference. I think that we've come a long way, obviously, and I'm still fairly new in the coaching world, but, you know, I think that we've made progress, but started to turn the corner, but there's still a long way to go. And Molly's right. It's from the top down, and looking at the head coaches, we're lucky to have a couple in our league, and then a few associate head coaches as well. But I think we can still do better in opportunities for women to continue to climb that ladder and hopefully not get pigeonholed into that assistant coach role. And I think, you know, another challenge as I think about it is, as a female, there's a certain perception that comes along with leadership and being in an authority position in general. And for, you know, not being able to say this word on camera, but there's a B word that can often be associated with women who want to take charge and to lead and to coach in a way that's a little bit more direct. And so I think that is a challenge for us often, is the same way that a male would present. It's, you know, he's a strong leader, he's direct, he's trying to coach them to make them better. And I think that, you know, young athletes are starting to gravitate more towards that with females as well. But I think there is still that perception where if I present the exact same way as a male, it can be received very differently.
No doubt about it. There's a lot of studies that would validate everything that you just said, and we certainly have a long ways to go and where that comes from. Janelle, let's flip it back. Opportunities. What do you think is another opportunity of being a woman in coaching?
I think going back to kind of, you know, what has kept me into coaching, kind of the opportunities that you have to pass on to the next generation. I'm a big advocate for youth girls camps. Being able to come as a coach and teach the younger generation, I think, is definitely an opportunity that without coaching at the college level, they wouldn't maybe give you the credibility. Kind of also going to Molly's point of, it kind of gives us a step above and allows them to listen to us. And it's kind of funny because obviously playing in the Olympics or, you know, winning national championships or whatever kind of gives you like a feather in your cap. But then it's almost like people need you to have that title to be able to listen to you, which I think is a little ridiculous, but at the same time, because I'm in a spot where I have that, I'm able to then speak and let them listen. So yes, I don't think you should have to have that as a woman in coaching, but at the same time, having that, using that as an opportunity to speak life into younger girls, speak encouragement, keep them in the sport, figure out how to develop the younger generation, even through recruiting, like having conversations with these young athletes and really, you know, not mentoring them through it, but at the same time, like being real with them and, you know, showing them that if you don't pick our school, it's okay. Like, we want you to grow and develop in the sport and find the perfect home for you. And am I going to probably play you if you don't pick us? Yes, I'll probably play you, and that's okay. And at the end of the game, when I shake their hands, like, it's a great opportunity to tell them good game because you now know them at a different level. So I think those opportunities through coaching have been so valuable to me, and the relationship piece is absolutely huge, which is part of why COVID has also been so difficult, because you don't see your coaches at the rink. That's not the encouragement when you go recruiting. You don't see everybody and, you know, go hang out or whatever it is. You don't get to see recruits face to face or, you know, through the glass, whatever it is, playing the game that they love. That opportunity we're missing, but taking what we have and really figuring out how can we continue to grow that next generation.
Yeah. Who's coming next, right? And how do we make it better for them? So Jackie and Sherry, you've been coaching the longest. Curious, as you hear Molly and Bethany talk about how far maybe we still have to go, I'm curious about how far we've come and maybe some differences that from, year one as coaching to year 12, as you've seen maybe growth in the respect of women in the sport, or if you have some perspective on that. Sherry, we'll start with you.
I think when I first started, it was the same, like prove yourself, like you belong. And I think a big issue was a lot of people were like, well, you can't have a family, you're recruiting, you're doing all these things. And I think part of my mindset has always been like, I'll prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. So I think that was kind of a big question mark. And my oldest kid's now 10. So, and I have 3, which is a bit chaotic, but great at the same time. But I think that was a big thing early on, where a lot of, I think, male coaches you'd be at the national convention and like, oh yeah, we can't have a family because I'm gone too much. And that's why there's not women coaching. So I think that was kind of, I always wanted kids, I always wanted a family. And that was kind of a big, like, I'll prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. You can do both. And now it's awesome because we have other coaches that are kind of in the same boat. Like, Janelle's got a couple of young kids and Jackie's got a littler nuggets. And it's cool that everybody's doing that and showing that it's possible. And I mean, I have people around me that get it when I get the call from daycare and come pick up your kid because this is going on, and supportive of that. But I think that was like a big thing when I first started, that there weren't people doing that. And now it's good. I mean, maybe we're older now and in that role, but I think it's awesome to see more people. And I think that was kind of the biggest prove it part for me first starting out. And so far, so good. I'm surviving, hockey mom to 3 little kids and coaching, and hopeful to get back on the road recruiting and seeing these guys and giving stories of what our kid did this time and who's eating the ranch with a spoon. So
this is such an interesting topic, because regardless of position in sport, that's always been a narrative around women. You can't be a mom, you can't do this, you can't have it all. How could you balance it? You hear life in the balance all the time. And I know for me personally, I just like to call it a blender. You just throw it all in, and some days you get more of something. I mean, that's just, the sooner you realize that you're probably not going to be perfect mom, perfect coach, perfect wife, all of it in the same day. And you're going to be really perfect maybe at one of them one day. But I appreciate so much the moms on this call, because not that I don't appreciate you all, but there is a level of showing your student athletes that you can do this. And I think, Sherry, to your point, I mean, we're similar in age and similar in length of time in the business. And that was the thing when you got started. It was, well, you can't be a mom. You can't do those things. And so watching you all prove, absolutely, we can do these things, and showing your student athletes we can do these things. The thing that I think for me frustrates me is that you don't often hear that around men. They don't say to the men, you can't be a dad. Or if the dad brings the kids to the rink, he's super dad, but if the mom brings the kids to the rink, it's like, you maybe you can't manage it all today because you got to bring the kids to the rink. And there's just something about that narrative that has to change. So I'm curious, Jackie, because you're the newest mom, I guess, how's it going? And did it give you some strength to see your counterparts be successful as, moms and coaches, and any advice you might have for young coaches who are wondering, can I do it?
Yeah. Well, how am I doing? I'm on mute most of the time because my husband has the kids downstairs, and I heard some screaming and crying below. So we'll keep it on mute most of the time. But yeah, I mean, add to Sherry's point, when we first started, there weren't a lot of, women that had families in the sport. And so I think it's been really cool to see that grow and see more coaches, have kids, and then just show, let's say, Bethany or Emma, if they want a family someday, that like, hey, it's not easy, but you can do it. And I mean, it's not easy if you're a lawyer or a teacher and having a family. I mean, they're all in the same boat too. So that's, I think, been really neat, because when we started, there were no other that I can remember females that had families. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll do this for a couple of years, you know, have a family and quit and move on to teaching or something like that. But no, it's totally possible. So it is, as they know, it's chaotic, it's fun. Pre-COVID, the cool thing about it is, you know, bringing your kids to the rink. And I know obviously Sherry and Janelle, they have little ones that skate too. And I'm looking forward to that day where I can bring Riley to the rink and she can go skating. And obviously last year hanging out with the student athletes, and what a perfect opportunity for my girls to look up to these role models and be around these wonderful student athletes and hang out with them. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that's one of the really, really cool things about our job with that.
Yeah, Janelle, piggyback off of that, because I know I've seen your kiddos at the rink. So how important is that they have that opportunity to be around you in a workplace, around the student athletes as role models? And do you find that valuable?
I mean, that's why I'm still coaching, right? Like, it's when being a mom, and Jackie and I were talking about this weekend, it's when being a mom and being a coach overlap. If they can't overlap, then I'm out, because my family is so important to me. So that's why COVID's been a little more tricky, but at the same time, there's ways to still do it. And there's nothing I love more than bringing my boys to the rink. They don't care that they're boys. Sherry will contest this. Like, they don't care that they're boys and there's a bunch of girls. My boys aren't old enough for it to be like, oh my gosh, it's the girls team, I want to be with the boys team. They don't care. Like, they know their names. We have a shooter tutor in the backyard that has a goalie face on it. And each day it's either Emma or Janine. And depending on which day, he knows which goalie, and he claims which one is his goalie. Like, they know those players, and that means the world to me when I can sit and balance the two. I mean, 2 weeks ago, funny long story that Molly and Jackie have heard, but when I can sit in the lounge and do video with my players and my toddler sit next to me, play on the iPad or whatever, it's when the two collide that you have to make it work. And there's some days that my husband can't have the kids because he's in full-time school, and I'm not able to pay for daycare for that time, or it's a 2-hour window, so they come with me. And you know what that's about, being a mom and bringing them with you, and making those two overlap. And the kids absolutely adore the players, and they love coming to the rink, and they're spoiled rotten when it comes to ice and skating. But that's why I coach. I mean, if that was taken away, like, I would pick family any day over coaching. But because they can go together, and because I can show each and every player on my team that you can do this, you can be a mom, you can work, and you can, you know, be friends with each other, and whatever it is, you can overlap that life together. That's what my goal is, because I want them to be able to then look down the road and coach. Like, I want them to realize that I can have a family and I can coach, and then maybe I can play pickup hockey, or maybe I can do this, and I can overlap all those. And like you said, throw it all in a blender. And some days one is going better than another. But at the end of the day, as long as the kids are still alive and the team's still happy, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, right? You made it. I have to imagine that your student athletes are, whether they say it to you or not, I think it means a lot that the type of role model that you're showing them, that if they want to do more than just coach, which is absolutely okay too, but if you want a family, you can do it, right? And I think that's the message, is all the way back to Molly's point of proving yourself. Like, if it's something that you want to do, then make it happen and let's do it. So Bethany and Molly, wondering about advice you'd give yourself looking back, right? So Molly, you're only in year 2. Is there something that, now that you're in year 2, that you learned in year 1 that some type of advice you would give yourself, or maybe give Emma? Poor
yeah, I was going to say, I'll take notes here. I'll take some notes.
Emma's getting started in the middle of a pandemic, which we haven't even touched on the craziness of what the pandemic has done to everyone. But curious, Molly, about some advice maybe you'd give yourself. Uh-oh, you're still on mute. There we go.
I was just saying, honestly, I looked at this question, I was like, man, I'm only in year 2. But as you were asking it, I was actually thinking to myself, you know what, Janelle can probably answer this question. Like, she could probably give me some advice looking back, like, you probably shouldn't have done that, or maybe you should have done this a little bit differently. But Yeah, I don't know if I give myself some advice slash, looking back. I don't know. I think I've tried to do a good job of just absorbing everything, and that's just the way that I live my life too, is just to try to stay in the present moment. So, there's a learning curve, of course. It's no different than joining a new team. When you're playing, joining a new staff, we're a team. So being patient with building those relationships, I would say, with our head coach and obviously with Janelle. But, looking back, there was nothing, major, just a matter of staying with the process. And I think as I move forward, just I want to try always to continue to push the envelope, and yes, trust the process. At the same time, push the boundaries, of what we're doing and where we're at, whether it's within our team or within the game, within the WCHA, that kind of a thing. So
appreciate that. Bethany, how about for you? 5 years in, looking back, what advice would you give to yourself? And Emma's still taking notes. So what advice would you give Emma?
Okay, Emma, put your pencil down. I don't know that this is gonna be good, but yeah, I think for me, probably the biggest thing is not to take it so seriously all the time. I think as soon as something becomes your occupation, there's like a very delicate balance of still being yourself in it. Because sometimes you show up and you're so consumed with trying to, especially in a coaching role, say the right thing or do the exact perfect thing. And I think that can be really challenging. There's some stat out there, it's like 82 or 83% of things are miscommunicated. And so even when you just like think you knocked it out of the park, all of a sudden 2 weeks later, a player comes up to you and they're like, that's not what you said. And I was like, well, that's what I intended. So I think that there's that challenge, especially in coaching, is to really bring your authentic self and to not take it so seriously, knowing that it's your occupation, that you kind of lose yourself in the process of it. And so I think that's the biggest thing to me is how do we show up and be our authentic selves and present that way without treating it so much like a job in certain moments that we kind of lose that authenticity or a ability to really just connect with players and staff and stuff and who we authentically are.
Yeah, that's awesome. You hear that a lot, be your authentic self, and I mean something different to each of us. So we're going to kind of wrap this up with one general question that I want everybody to answer, which I know will be hard because whoever gets the last straw, I was going to say, they already said what I wanted to say, but we'll see what we can do. So I just want to sort of end it with this, and you can take this whichever way you want to go. What can we do or keep doing to make, our sport, our league, coaching, like what can we do to keep advocating and pushing and making things better for the next generation of girls and women? Emma, let's start with you.
I think the biggest thing I got from this was just keep empowering our female athletes.
I like it. And I love your sweatshirt. Haven't even noted it yet, but make sure we get it out there. There it is. Bethany, what's your take on it?
Yes, I get to go second. I think just continuing to provide those positional opportunities for women. And, when we do have opportunities to move people up and rather than out, I think it'd be great if within programs, when those opportunities present themselves, to number one, look internally, but then also continue to look for strong females in the game, because I think there's a lot.
A lot. Jackie, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what Bethany said, but then also I think just continue to support one another in this business. I think we all have a pretty good relationship with each other, and just have that communication open if there's any issues, or I mean, even like I know a lot of motherhood stories or things like that, that we can lean on each other for that, and I think that that helps us stay in the game for sure.
Sherry, we'll go to you. What do you think we can do or keep doing to be supportive of women?
Like just support each other. We're all trying to do the same thing and win games and beat each other, but at the same time, like all these people, I love seeing you guys at camps and rinks and wish we could hang out more. But just the supportive piece and kind of showing each other like, hey, if you want to have a family, you can do that. If you want to have a business on the side, you can do that. Like, do it all and support each other through it. Not like, boy, she's doing that, that's not good for me. I mean, I want all you guys to crush everything you do and be great at everything you do. And it's fun to watch, and it's, you know, like fun, follow some of you through Instagram and see, you know, Janelle's kids doing this and Jackie's kids doing that. And it's fun to kind of be a part of that part of you guys' lives, even though I don't get to see that part of it because of one, COVID, and two, just we're not around to do that part. So hopefully in the future, we'll have all our kids at an alumni event and they'll be maybe skating circles around us. So
I can't wait for that. We got to make that happen as soon as this world tells us we can do that. How about for you, Molly? What do you think we can do or should be doing to keep elevating and making things better for the next generation?
I really liked what Jackie said in terms of supporting each other and supporting people in the business. And that goes along with what I would have to say is just to create an environment that people want to be a part of, you know, within our league. I mean, people want to be feel success, you know, in the WCHA. As much as we all want to win, like when a WCHA team wins, you know, a big title, that's awesome. You know, elevating the growth of the level of play in all of our teams, whether we're growing individually, you know, or within that. I think engagement is a big thing, you know, engaging each other. Like I said, I played in that alumni game. I got to snipe a few on Sherry that day.
Some trash talking coming. Here it comes.
I won't let her rebuttal that. No, I won't let her rebuttal that. But no, I got a chance to actually meet Bethany. You know, it's a small group, but I met a couple of people, and there were a couple of people, you know, Bemidji, a couple of alumni from Bemidji came down that were from my era or our era or whatever. So just that engagement piece is a big one, I think, for me too.
All right, Janelle. Sorry that I let you draw the last straw, but I know you can handle it. What do you think? What about what we can do or should keep doing for the next generation?
Obviously, I agree with everyone. I think the biggest thing for me is doing real life, like Sherry said, like real life is sharing what's happening in your real life. And sometimes that's being vulnerable and sharing how hard it is. And I think letting people know how difficult it is will also keep other people in the coaching world because they realize they're not the only ones. And part of that too is encouraging, you know, your future or past teammates. I remember when Molly and I talked and she wanted to get into the coaching career, it was like encouraging those other female that you know can do this, encouraging them to get into the game, encouraging them to be coaches, whether it's high school or college or AAA or wherever. And then doing real life, asking them, how is it going? What are you struggling with? What's hard? You know, and Jackie and I were talking like the difficulties of having kids, like, you know, the three of us can really relate to whether it's eating, you know, ranch dressing, or maybe it's, you know, the meltdown or the fact that my kid peed his pants in the weight room. It happens. And you know what, they make funny stories, and, you know, the student athletes see us doing real life and they appreciate the fact that it's not perfect. It's not all the great drop-offs at school and I'm at work on time, or if it's staying to work till 5 because I don't have to worry about the kids. No, I have to run out of the locker room to get to daycare on time to pick them up. Like, that's doing real life, and sharing those experiences with each other, I think will really help more women be in the sport and share those struggles, because it's real. Life is real, and it's hard, but it's totally worth it. And sharing the ups and downs really will help keep females in the coaching world.
It's real and it's hard, but it's worth it. There it is. Those were like the key words, right? No matter what the position is, no matter how long you've been doing it or how long you want to do it, or family or no family, it's real, it's hard, but it's worth it. What an outstanding group of women I have on the screen. I'm so thankful for your time today, and just honestly so proud that our league has such phenomenal female leadership, and proud of the fact that our student athletes get to look at you all every day and have amazing role models. So again, 6 of the very best assistant coaches in the country today on this wonderful panel. Thank you to Bethany, Emma, Sherry, Jackie, Janelle, and Molly for your time. And I think our message is that it's real, it's hard, and it's worth it. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and look forward to more opportunities to see you all succeed.